Explorers, this is Joel Hunt, the Natural Explorer. If you're like me and you like to be outside exploring, or even going on an evening walk or hanging out at your friend's barbecue, chances are you're going to get that mosquito bite or get into something that irritates your skin. Now I found a good remedy for that. It's an herbal medicine called plantain salve, and it's made with 3 simple ingredients. Plantain, which you can find in your backyard, organic beeswax, which I have here from our honey harvest 2 weeks ago, and the 3rd ingredient is coconut oil. Now it is shelf stable and it makes for a great gift. So we're going to go through the process of boiling down this beeswax today, which is our 1st ingredient, and then we'll follow up by making the plantain salve and putting it into nice tins. Inside of every beehive you're going to find a frame. Actually rows of frames, and they're similar to a picture frame. These we got in their pre-printed honeycombs made out of beeswax, and what the bees do is they fill each one of those holes with honey, and then they cap it off, and then they eat on it through the winter time. But if you have extra, then you can harvest the honey out of it, and this beeswax is left behind. Now, as you can imagine, this is a really sticky project. That's why I'm wearing the gloves. So now that I'm done collecting all the beeswax out of the frames, I'm going to tie up my cheesecloth, and it'll be ready to go into our pot. The reason you're using the cheesecloth is to try and trap all the impurities, at least to limit the number of times that you have to filter the beeswax. So I'm going to cut off a piece of cooking twine, and I'm going to tie up my bag of cheesecloth. Good, that's it. So it's going to stay in this pot. We're going to put it outside, let it cool overnight, 24 hours, and then we'll pull this out, and then we'll reprocess it, filter it, and it should be ready. So it's all melted now. We're ready to filter it and then put it in its container. Now that my beeswax is finished, it's time to collect the plantain, which is the active ingredient in my salve. So plantain is very common. It's in your backyard, it's on the edge of farm fields, in soccer fields. You can find it pretty much anywhere. Just like any other herb that you're harvesting for food or for medicine, you have to make sure that 1, the plant is the correct species, and 2, that it hasn't been sprayed with pesticides. So there are 2 kinds of plantain. There's narrow leaf and there's broadleaf, and I have examples here to show you. So obviously this is the broadleaf and this is the narrow leaf, and it's pretty self-explanatory how they got their names. So they both have these long parallel veins growing through them, and they're both acceptable to use in the herbal medicine that I use, but I prefer the narrow leaf plantain because it dries a little quicker. So an easy way to identify it besides just the sight are these tall seed heads that shoot up from the plant. Now they're about 12 to 18 inches off the ground. A friend of mine once said that they look like UFOs, and every time she saw the UFOs flying in her yard, she knew it was time to mow. So once you've identified it by the seed head and by the parallel veins, a way to make certain that you have the right plant is to bend it in half and give it a gentle tug, and you'll start to see those veins come out like this. I'm a strong believer in responsible foraging. When I'm out collecting plants, I want to make sure that I'm not taking all the flowers or all the leaves from a single plant, and I'm not wiping out an entire population. not just for me for future use of the plant, but also for the wildlife and the insects that need these plants for food and for medicine. So I gathered up all my narrow leaf plantain. I got about a half a basket full, which is more than enough for my recipe. It is kind of dirty, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse it off. I like to put it in this centrifuge. I think they call it a salad spinner, just to get all the excess water off before the plantain goes in the dehydrator. So now I'm just going to kind of towel dry this, give it a squeeze, make sure I get out any extra moisture, and then I have to go through and pick out any hitchhikers that I don't need in my recipe. My plantain's been in the dryer for 24 hours. I'm real happy with the way that it turned out. So I'm just gonna take it out, crush it up a little, fill the jar, and then I'll add my oil and we'll let it cook for an hour. Now, because the coconut oil comes in solid form, I wanted to melt it down, but not heat it up. So I'm real happy with my beeswax cubes. They came out perfectly, nice and clear. I'm gonna take them, measure off 2 ounces, and then I'm gonna shred them using this shredder so they're in small pieces and I can slowly incorporate them into the oil on the double boiler. So I'm gonna turn on my scale. I'm gonna zero it out, and that's 0.7 ounces. That's 1.5 ounces. So I've shredded my beeswax. I have my strainer with some cheesecloth to pour the oil into, filter out all the plantain pieces. I'm going to put it in the double boiler, which is already on, and then slowly incorporate the beeswax into that oil. And then here are the tins that I will ladle the mixture into and let it cool and set up, and we'll be all finished. At this point, all I'm doing is waiting for it to cool off, and then I'll put the caps on and I'll be done. My salve is all finished and I'm ready for the outdoors. This was a fun project for me to make, and one I hope you enjoyed watching. If you'd like to learn how to avoid getting bug bites in the first place, check out my video on Groovy Bug Spray. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please click like and subscribe, and hit that alert bell so you know when my new videos come out. Until next time, get out and explore.